So in this discussion, we are looking at how to find the mass of element in a given sample. So you have been given a sample and they want you to find the mass of a particular element in a given sample. So the formula that you can apply, so mass of, so we are talking about mass of element in sample. For you to find the mass of the element in sample, you are going to say it is the mass of the element. So it is simply the mass of element in the sample that you have been given over the mixture of the compound or the sample that you have. Then you multiply by sample, you multiply by just the sample mass. That's what you're going to do. So that is the mass of element in the compound that you have over the mixture of the compound times the mass of the sample. For example, you might actually be given to say, calculate the mass of copper, calculate the mass of copper in 32 grams of copper, 32 grams of copper 2 sulfate. So how do you go about to calculate that? Well, it's very simple. They want you to find the mass of copper in 32 grams of copper 2 sulfate. Remember the formula for copper 2 sulfate, the proper formula is that. So the first thing you need to find, what is the mixture of this guy. So how many copper are there? It's only 1 times 64, the atomic mass, plus sulfur 1 times 32, plus oxygen, there are 4 times 16. That is what you have. So that will give you 64 plus 32 plus 64. So if you add that, what is that going to give you? 64 plus 32 plus 64. That is going to give you 160. That is what you're going to have. So now to find the mass, to find in this case the mass of copper, which is Cu, it is the mass of the copper in the sample. So if you remember, copper was here, this was sulfur, and that was oxygen. So the mass of copper is 64 over the total mixture, which is 160. Then we multiply. But what was the mass of the whole sample? It was 32. So we are going to multiply by 32 grams. So if you put it on your calculator, 64 over 160 multiplied by the 32 grams, it is simply giving me a 12.8 grams. So it's possible. You would have even known for the other elements that is there. We actually, can do it in the same way. Let me just show you how you can do that. Suppose I wanted to know the mass of sulfur. It would have been the mass of sulfur, which is 32 over 160 multiplied by 32 grams. That's what would have done. So it would have actually been, 32 times 32 times 32. That will give me that divided by 160. It is going to give me a 6.4 grams. So it would have given us sulfur. You would have also found what of oxygen is there, how much of oxygen is there. What is the mass of oxygen, which is 64 over 160 multiplied by the 32 grams. So it will still give you 12.8 grams. And interestingly, if you add the total masses, 12.8 plus 6.4 plus again 12.8, you should be able to get a total of 32 grams that you have been given there. So that is basically how you can go about that. So now I want to give you a question that you can also try and practice out. I want you to also practice out these questions. So I can simply maybe tell you to say, you can do that as an exercise in your own free time. So I can simply tell you to say, calculate, the mass of iron, in 12.0 grams of, of sample rust. In this case, maybe you can say of iron, 3 oxide. So you calculate that. Then the other one, I can tell you to say calculate the mass of chromium. Calculate the mass of chromium in 10.0 grams of chromium 3 oxide. Yeah, so you calculate the mass of chromium in chromium 3 oxide. So those are questions that you can work out and see if you can do them. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my videos, please, you can hit that subscribe button and the like button so that you can continue to see more videos. See you in my next videos.